How we doing? Fox back again for Sound Design Tutorials. This is part 3 of our Wave Alchemy Revolution course. In this section we're going to be going over the drum voice controls, which are in this section at the bottom. We went over the mixer section last time, and in the first part we covered the way you can browse your presets and patterns. Yeah, if you've came in on this one late and you want to watch the rest of the videos before this, there is a link to the playlist in the description. So yeah, the drum voice controls, if you like. Each section in the mixer, each mixer section is related to a drum voice, and every time you click on a drum voice, as long as autoplay or MIDI select is selected, it brings up the controls for the drum voice in this section at the bottom. Now you can automatically change between the drum voices per mixer channel, if you like, in this section. So if for some reason we didn't like this bass drum, we wanted to do one from the tracks instead, click on it, it then changes it to that. So everyone has a different set of controls. We're going to work through them. So the RV78 accent, this controls the first analog sample parameter of the drum voice. Doesn't really do much on the kick, but if we were to use the snare, let's turn the delay and the send up. Let's go to the 78, so snare. So yeah, the accent, it's not really audible on this sample at the minute, but this changes the accent. What it does, controls the first analog sample parameter of the drum voice. So dulls it down slightly, makes it a tiny bit brighter. The character changes between the different sort of ways that it has been sampled. Now analog, this is the original sample for a high quality signal path with random round robin. What it does is it alternates the samples that were recorded by the blokes who made Revolution to give it that classic analog sound. As you push it round, it goes to tape 1. This is the original drum machine sampled or recorded for a multi-track Studer A820 tape machine. This is available in 1 to 3 levels, so you've got 1, 2 and 3. So analog. Let's change the snare drum to something else. We can't on this section. Some of the drum machines have different snares available to you. So in the RV78, it's as simple as that. You've got the accent, which boosts the volume, if you like, or makes it a little bit brighter. You then got the 3 different tape modes. You can hear a difference between 2 and 3. You then got the S1200. This is a lo-fi digital resampled version of the sound. They have been sped up 5 times and lowered to 16-bit. The samples are then lowered back to the original pitch using the Contact S12 sampling engine. Instantly makes it a little bit duller. You've then got the SP, which it doesn't give you available on this. Some of the other sounds have a lot more options than just these. But yeah, it's just a way of changing the sound of the sample without going ahead and applying any filters or anything in the bottom section. So yeah, that's the RV78. If we go to the 8000, why am I now not hearing nothing? You tell me. What have I done? I've changed the output, that's what I've done. So, 8000. It's more of a perk hit than a snare drum. You can hardly hear it. Got that running through the delay as well, and I've got it hard panned. Let's reset all these controls. So yeah, same again, analog, take 1, take 2, the S1200 and the accent. You can again change where it wants to be. You can change the channel at which it comes out at. Contact obviously gives you the chance to do multiple output routing. If I can figure out how to do that, I'll do a video on that at the end. So the 808 should be more control over this then. You've got the sample. Helps you change the character. Doesn't say anything about that in the menu. Just see what it says. First analog sound parameter of the drum voice. This must emulate the button that comes off the original drum machines, I would imagine. So you've got a lot more options in here. You've got the analog, the 3 tapes, the S1200. You then have a digital. Now what the digital one does, this is the original drum machine sound sample for a high quality and direct signal path. Since digital drum machines use static samples, this mode does not feature the round robin. So it's a lot more of a static sound, a lot more crisper sound, a lot more constant. The SP1200 is the SP1200 drum machine, which we've been through. Mastered. The original drum machine resampled through various high-end and boutique hardware. Again, a lot more crisper, a lot more noticeable than the original analog sound. Snappy. I would imagine this is going to make it more snappy. It's almost like a low-pass filter. You get the general idea of these controls. We'll quickly go through some of the other ones. Let's go to the drum. This is a pitch on this one. So you can change the overall pitch from here rather than going into the pitch envelope or the pitch inside this section at the bottom. Same again with the control there. So VDX. Pitch control again. This one only goes between the SP1200. You then have an additional grit. The controls are really quite basic inside these. It just gives you a little bit of fine control on the actual drum voice before you go to the section at the bottom. So the later. Nice and straightforward. This is a tune again on the RV tracks. Quite extreme. Only 3 different character modes there. Oh, that's the tracks. Got the SP12. Pitch again. And a fine tune. And a grit. Digital SP12 or mastered. 707. 2 different samples, that sounds like. Easy peasy 505. All that's got is a character. Ooh, if you're on the SP12 it has a tune. And a grit. We'll then have the boy. Change between the sample. Tune. Grit again. The grit only comes in on that SP1200. Yeah, so it's lovely. Easy peasy these controls are. So if we go ahead to one of the hi-hats, there is an extra control that comes in on some of these hi-hats and these cymbals. You have different versions. You've got a closed hi-hat, if we find it. Master. So we're on this cymbal here. You've got to choose between a ride or a crash. Same again with some of these hi-hats. know why some of these have changed to different outputs. Must have been something I did when I was messing around. So yeah, closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, then have your character again. The only other controls you've got is the re-trigger on. Obviously, when the voice is selected, the notes will not overlap when playing back samples, automatically fading out all sounds on this voice. You can hear them overlapping. Choke group is real straightforward with 3 hi-hats. Generally how these drum machines work, you didn't want them to overlap, they sort of cancelled each other out. So you apply them to the same choke group. So hi-hat 2 and hi-hat 3. They're on the same choke group, choke grum, so you can hear the closed hi-hat will cut off the open hi-hat. It's generally what would happen, obviously, if a drummer's playing, because he'll open and close it and it cuts the other one off. Gives it a more classic feel. You can choose to set the choke group to off if you want. So you can hear them overlapping, they won't cut each other off. I'll generally leave the choke groups as they are. It's how the machines were designed. Choke groups on the toms are not applied. The hi-hats they are. The cymbals are not, neither the perks. So it's only the hi-hats as standard come with the choke groups applied. I'll quickly load another preset just to make sure that is true. Jabba jaw. So toms have no choke group. Hi-hats choke group 1. Yeah, so it's only the hi-hats in general which would, if a real drummer was playing them, cut each other off. So you can apply other choke groups if you wanted to use 2 different kick drums and have one playing at a different time and cut the other one off. So yeah, re-trigger obviously does what it says. Choke group if you want sounds to cut each other off. Choose between the different drum voices in this section here. You can also change between them by the arrows if you want to swap them out that way. You then got the few basic controls of the drum voice in this section at the bottom. Yeah, you can choose whether it's outputted to an individual channel or to the master. When selected, all drum channels will automatically be routed to their own output. So if you click that button, it automatically maps all of these to individual outputs. You would only be using this in the contact 16 out section because you're not going to hear nothing. You're generally going to want them to all be routed to the master. So we'll go ahead now and talk about the controls that you have per voice as well. These in the manual are called drum sampler controls. So if we click on this snare, go down to the bottom, you can choose start position of the sample to do away with the punch of the snare if you like. You then have an AHD envelope, attack, hold, decay, so you can again control the volume, make it more plucky or ring out a lot more. You can then choose how much velocity affects this. So if velocity is on full, going to be very, very velocity sensitive. If it's all the way off, every time you hit a key, no matter how hard you hit it, it will be full velocity. I'll generally keep the velocity halfway on these. You then have a choice of a filter per voice. Remember, these controls are individual per voice. If I mess these settings up so they look different, when I then play another voice, you can see the controls change totally over. All these controls are voice independent. Gives you a lot of controls. A lot of controls over the sound. Just reset everything. So then you have a choice over a filter per voice. By standard, it comes on the Daft low pass filter. Really, really resonant. You can then have velocity, controls the cutoff of the frequency. So how do you hit it? Opens the cutoff off, softer, the filter will be more closed. You can choose between, I believe there's 12 different filters. These make use of the filters inside contact. Yeah, if we close this, instrument buses, send effects, modulation, insert effects, you can see the daft low pass filter there. Yeah, all of these filters are inside contact. They've just utilized them and gave you free reign over them inside this, so you could change from a low pass filter to a band pass. Generally they pick the low pass daft. So filter resonance increases the gain at the cutoff point, the amount of velocity sensitivity, the amount of velocity opens or closes the filter. You then have a separate envelope for this. Just the modulation intensity for the filter envelope has over. Just the modulation intensity the filter envelope has over. Adjusts the modulation intensity the filter envelope has over the filter cutoff frequency. So yeah, when it's set to velocity, velocity obviously will control the cutoff. If you change it to envelope, it then changes to this envelope, controls the cutoff of the frequency. So if we have the filter shut, open the envelope up, you then have an AHD envelope, so you can create your classic filter envelope or plucky style envelopes. You then have control over the pitch per voice, a fine tune. This goes up plus or 12 semitones, so you can really drastically change the sound. And this goes just over a semitone each way, the fine. You then have an envelope to control the pitch. This is if you want to add more punch to the sound. So traditionally you would have quite a lot of envelope to the right. A plucky amount. A break section is like a hold section, if you like, and then a second decay. So you can make some real staccato sounds with short envelopes on both. So you can really drastically change the sound. Again, if I just go ahead and control click this, remember what the sound sounds like. Plucky, quite staccato-ish. Change all these back to the way they were. A lot lower, letting a lot more low frequencies through. We've filtered some out with that low pass filter. Yeah, you can really drastically change the drum voice sounds. Pitch envelope you probably use more on the kick to add more punch. We'll do that now, we'll show you. So, we'll add this pitch envelope. Really can add a lot more punch to your sounds by using the envelope on the pitch. You then have random. This applies a random amount from 0 to maximum, obviously, for what it's got at the bottom here. You've got start position, volume, pan. The pan is very, very useful for percussive elements or hi-hats if you want to add some stereo image to your sound. Or the tune. It's only plus or minus 50 cents, so it's half a semitone. Gives it a bit more of an analog feel, sort of changing the pitch up per voice, per note pressed. Yeah, lots of control over what you can do with the sound just in this little character section. And with your amp envelope, the filter, the envelope that comes with the filter, pitch knobs and the envelope that come with it. World's your oyster, really. This is really where you start getting to grips and start building the sounds. Yeah, so that's your basic controls. Your mixer section we've covered, the individual voice controls, and the voice envelopes, if you like. Yeah, we're really moving through now. Oh, we have also covered the send effects, the delay and the reverb. So in the next one, we're going to be going over your basic step sequencer, this sort of classic little section at the bottom here. And then we'll go ahead and talk about the effects in more detail in regards to the insert effects and the master effects. We'll then go into the sequencer section where you can program your beats in more of a typical DAW style. Once I've covered the interface as it stands now, then I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can load in the Ableton template and use it inside a drum rack. And as I said, if I can get it running, then show you how you can use it inside Complete Control. But for now, stay tuned for part 4. Please subscribe. Cheers.